My story starts in the late spring of 1988, and I am a teenage misfit. And not in the sort of James Deany kind of way, like, I mean, literally nothing fits. Not my clothes, which, because my family is poor and buys them used, they kind of hang off me at odd angles. And not my personality, which, because I grew up in a small industrial town and have this personality which manages to be both bookish and unbearably loud at the same time. See, it's falling. The short answer is, because of those things, I don't have many friends. But what I have is a radio. And it's silver plastic, and I bought it at Sears in the catalog with my paper route money. Am I turning this the wrong way? There we go. And on the nights when it's cold and there aren't any clouds, I can hear the stations from as far away as Vancouver, about 800 kilometers to the south of where I grew up. And the way that music sort of comes in over the static and over the distance, it sounds to me kind of like a message from a place that I've always wanted to be. That summer, I've accepted a job at a summer camp. I'm going to be a counselor, and that doesn't fit either, because I am and still am the least outdoorsy person anyone in this room has ever met. I prefer to think of myself as a great indoorsman. I like to say that the great outdoors is the space between the front door of my house and the front door of the restaurant. But that's okay. I'm confident that this is going to be the right place for me for two reasons. The first is, it's not sort of your typical summer camp. It's called Naramata Center in a town called Naramata on Okanagan Lake, not far from Penticton, BC. And it's kind of a resort. Like, we as the counselors will stay in a dorm where there are real beds and real bathrooms and there's a cafeteria. We are not going to be roughing it, which is good. The second reason I'm confident is because I had spent a weekend there last fall at kind of a teen churchy retreat thing, and it was fantastic. There was a dance where they encouraged us to wear ethnic dress. So as a Celtic mutt, I borrowed my dad's kilt, and I went to this dance, and I danced like a crazy person. And instead of making fun of me, the other kids thought I was fun. And so I made friends. When I got to the camp, it was essentially what I had hoped it would be. We were part of a group of kids and we all got along really great. Don't get me wrong, I was still the dorky guy. I wasn't near as cool as Darren Dill Pickle. It says a lot about the social ordering at a church summer camp that the coolest kid was named Darren Dill Pickle. Dill, as everyone called him, was cool, though. He was blessed with a surfer's tan and rosy cheeks and kind of a laconic charm. The girls loved him. He also had what seemed to me to be an absolutely endless supply of designer clothes. You know, like Maui and Sons and Ocean Pacific. Ask your parents. He said his parents owned a surf shop in Nanaimo. And he said that his dresser drawers back home were so full of designer t-shirts that he often didn't even have time to take them out of the plastic. At any rate, Anytime I stood beside him, I was really conscious of the length of my limbs and the angles of my joints. Despite that, though, I did feel part of something. I did feel like I was surrounded by friends. And that's because I was included at times, even when it wasn't easy to be included. The one night when everyone went out skinny dipping, for example, everyone knew that I couldn't swim, but I was still invited. And so I appointed myself DJ. I borrowed my roommate's, Jason's ghetto blaster, and I went down to the dock with a few of my favorite tapes. Grapes of Wrath, and The Cure, and New Order, Ask Your Parents. And it was perfect. The sky was clear, and it was warm, and there was the sound of my friends in the water, and they were laughing and splashing and flirting, and everything went fine until I hit record instead of pause. And I didn't notice for about 20 seconds. Even as the summer went on, even Dill and I became really, really close. I remember one night near the end of our tenure as camps counselors, he took me aside and he said, "I've written some songs and I want you to hear them." I went, "Wow, cool." So he took his 12-string guitar and we went over to the benches in front of the cafeteria. And he took his 12-string guitar out and he sang in this voice that's, you know, when you're 19 and you're sort of in that space between being grown up and not being grown up. So it was kind of reedy, but on the borders of being deep. And he sang, "If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old-time movie about a ghost in a wishing well." And I thought, oh my God, this guy is so talented. I was in awe. This is the coolest person I've ever met, and he's got all of this songwriting talent, and he is my friend. Coming home was hard, as you can imagine. It's difficult to be surrounded by friends for as long as I was surrounded by friends, and then to go back to being lonely, which I was. It's also hard, and those of you who laughed at the melody will know, it's hard to have a truth, a warm truth that you hold, get taken away from you. So the moment at which that truth was taken away from me, I was listening to the CBC on that radio that I talked to you about. It was probably Zosky or something. Ask your parents. And I heard a non-reedy, non-teenager's voice. It was a deep baritone singing, "If you could read my mind, love, what a tale the thoughts would tell. Just like a paperback novel, the kind the drugstores sell." It turned out that If You Could Read My Mind was not actually written by a 19-year-old whose parents owned a surf shop in Nanaimo, British Columbia, but by a grown-ass, middle-aged Gordon Lightfoot who was singing about the dissolution of his first marriage. And obviously, I felt betrayed, and I felt kind of stupid. But most of all, I felt sad. Because as I was sitting there, feeling as accepted as I ever had in my entire life, the guy that I thought was the coolest, the guy that I thought was effortlessly surrounded by people who were his friends, didn't feel like he could be himself. And I felt that way every time I thought of that summer. But I also thought of it every single time I put on my New Order tape. The one that about 2 minutes and 30 seconds into True Faith had a 20-second interruption with the sounds of my friends splashing and flirting and laughing in the water of Okanagan Lake. It always sounded to me like a message floating in from far away, from a place that I'd always wanted to be. Thank you.